I'm Samantha Tomlinson.
And I'm Kevin Tracy. Welcome back to Movie Reel, everybody. How are you today, Sam?
I'm doing okay. You're physically ill because what movie are we talking about?
Independence Day Resurgence. The greatest sequel that nobody asked for. I
uh,
I really don't know how to describe this movie. It was just so much wasted potential. It we'll kind of boil this movie down as we kind of go into it, but yeah, right off the bat, this movie I don't think should have been made.
Yeah, I thought that like 20 minutes in.
Yeah, it like don't get me wrong, I love the first Independence Day movie, but you can't make a sequel for a movie like 20 years or so
No.
after the original and still tie it back to the original. It doesn't work because you're going to have a huge disconnect from your audience because a lot of the people that movie, the original movie's for, have kind of like aged out of the demographic that whatever your sequel is going to make is going to cater to, unless you specifically cater towards an older demographic. So they're already setting themselves up for failure right out of the gate.
So anyone listening, we're continuing our summer movies, and last year we talked about Independence Day on for the 4th of July, and so we decided we would continue and just do Resurgence. I think I admit last year I hadn't seen Independence Day. I knew I knew the movie. I think I had seen like pieces of it. I knew
You know,
it had Will Smith
welcome to Earth.
uh, and Jeff Goldblum, and I wasn't. I'm also just getting. I'm not that familiar with Roland Emmerich. I only knew him. What? Okay, I was thinking after watching this movie, other than this Independence Day and Godzilla, and was Stargate the other one?
Yes.
What is does he have any I don't know, I'm not familiar with Roland Emmerich, so I apologize, but is there
He
a
he
like
he he
solid
he is also one of the main writers for The Day After Tomorrow, that global warming ish
the
movie where
the newer one or the older one?
the one from 2004
Oh, okay, so then wait,
with
is I just remember, isn't Dennis Quaid in one of them? I
yeah,
haven't
Dennis
seen those.
Dennis Quaid's in it. It's when New York freezes and he has to go and save his son, who's it's Gyllenhaal.
Maybe I think, yeah, Gyllenhaal is in one of them. It just seems like Roland Emmerich seems to have this like repertoire, and this just is it's filled with a bunch of stars, and it's like I said this like for Godzilla. I feel like I think I actually said this. I was re-listening to our Independence Day episode for this, and it just seems like he casts all these people that we're all somewhat familiar with. Either they are, if they're like either being top billed, or even like the supporting characters, or like the random people that you kind of meet throughout. There, you know them from somewhere. Like,
Yeah.
like I even like the random like group of kids in this movie. I was like, oh, Joey
Oh
King,
God.
she's in some stuff. She's starting to make a pretty good name for herself. McKenna Grace.
Yeah.
Um,
They there was absolutely no
no,
need for them to be in this movie.
they were
They were
pointless.
they were wasted potential, and honestly, I was rooting for that like whole caravan to die. It's like, please, can we just some debris and alien just shoot them so they're not in the movie, because they really they add absolutely nothing to the movie.
I remember. So this came out 2016,
Yeah.
20 years after the first one, and yeah, it just seemed like, I mean, again, I didn't grow up on Independence Day. It and I know even that movie I think is just kind of okay, like it's fun, but
It's a very, fun, like,
yeah,
adventure
yeah,
movie.
yeah,
Like, it's like, it's not groundbreaking or anything. I
no,
mean, it's kind of like, at the time it was kind of groundbreaking with, like, like the various like explosions, like the White House exploding, like all the models exploding. Like, that wasn't really groundbreaking, but it was just a really cool visual to see,
right,
especially at the
right.
time.
And in this movie, there were multiple visuals. There were a couple that I'm like, wow, this is a really great image, and there were a couple where I'm like, what am I looking at? Like I
Yeah.
can't. There's too much going on that I genuinely don't know what I'm seeing. And I think it was maybe the whole like when the plane, but not the plane, the spaceship is landing on like which that whole sequence went on for so long.
There was just a lot of scenes and characters in this movie where it's like, why is this going so hard on this? It made no sense. It's like, okay, we're gonna need to make this ship to be 3,000 miles wide. It's like, that is
Ambitious.
unnecessarily
That's
excessive.
like
It's like a giant
yeah.
starfish. Like, it looked like a starfish like on a tennis ball. It was just so huge that it had its own gravitational pull, and it just destroyed literally everything that it touched.
So
But it's okay because they made a couple funny lines like, oh, they like to hit the landmarks.
actually,
It's
I
like,
will say that
cool,
was
just
I'm
casually
like, you know
making
what,
jokes.
that joke I will say. There were jokes in this that I'm like, they're funny, but some of them like okay, like towards the end. So we got a lot of the return. We got Jeff Goldblum, we got Bill Pullman,
Viv-
um
Vivica Fox for
for
five
5 there was
minutes.
that okay, we'll hold off on Vivica Fox.
Yes.
Uh
Oh, yeah, but I kind of want to address the elephant in the room. Where's Will Smith? Well, they couldn't afford Will Smith for this movie, so they killed his character off in between
I mean,
movies.
I kind of assumed he didn't want to go back. Like I don't know, why would he?
I think, yeah. I don't remember what the actual reason was why he didn't come. I think he just, yeah, like you said, he just didn't want to come back. So yeah, they just killed his character off screen, and his son,
So, so Vivica
Dylan,
Fox
played by
was his
Jesse.
like girlfriend, his stripper girlfriend, and he wants to be an astronaut,
Yeah, yeah,
and he wants to do he wants the program he wants to do. He can't get into it, and there's kind of a light like, oh, it's because you're in this relationship, and but he's like, it's like he's a father to her son, like he has it's like his
yeah.
family, and I guess there were just and my big okay, let's just talk Vivica Fox now. My bigger issue was not even that she was in the movie. I don't whatever. Was just like she's a doctor apparently. It's like okay, was that a thing in the last
I
movie?
mean,
Was she stripping to pay through medical school? Like
20 years is a long time to change
no,
careers, I
it
guess.
is, but there was no like
Oh yeah, that was completely out of
if it was
nowhere.
like
There's no.
if it was a thing in the last one like oh like no she always wanted to be a doctor or something like but they make no it's like okay she's a doctor now and I was just like yeah
Yeah,
she
it's
didn't
like, if it was ever mentioned in the first movie, I have no
yeah
memory of that whatsoever. Even if it was just said in passing, it's like, oh, did you pay your medical bills? Like your college tuition bills yet? It's like,
yeah
no. It's like,
but
okay.
yeah
Like, yeah, like even very lazily or shoehorned in. But yeah, it was
but
really
I think
weird.
the biggest issue with this movie I feel like is just yeah I agree with you about like the disconnect but also it was the thing about the first one and like I said I'm not like it was a fun movie I'm not like obsessed with it but yeah it's a fun premise it's Independence Day everybody's gearing up for the 4th of July and then there's an alien attack and so we're trying to keep our independence from an alien. Like, sure, like that's fun. That's a fun concept for a movie. And this
Yeah.
was just I saw a review on IMDb that said, why is this even called Independence Day? It should just be called Chinese product placement extravaganza.
It really is, because like even like I was watching Cinema Sins about
Oh
this,
my god.
and
Is
it's
it
just like
funny?
it's like 20 minutes long of just them bashing this movie. It is just
What
great.
was the total number of sins? Do you remember?
Like well over 100. Like it just like, you could, instead of watching the movie, just watch that. He almost goes scene for scene. Um, but it was really funny. It's like, wow, it's really crazy how much China is like super helpful in like all these movies like in the past few years, because China is like, there's like a series of like pilots that are like the Legacy Squadron or something like that. It had some like
Mm.
really stupid name that oh god, Will Smith's son's a part of it. I'm just going to refer to him as Will Smith's son because I could give less of a shit about any of these characters' names.
It was Will Smith's son. It was Will Smith's son, Liam Hemsworth, uh,
yeah. By the way,
Asian girl.
yeah,
I don't remember her
just
name. Rain was her name, but like,
no
and then
Chinese product placement.
not Mae Whitman, the
Yeah,
daughter,
yeah.
Bill Pullman, and Jeff Goldblum. I was referring to him as Levinson in my head.
Yeah.
Like he was the 100% the best part about this movie. Like, he's Jeff Goldblum. He's funny. He's entertaining, and I
Oh
went
yeah.
into this actually. Was he? So he's in Fallen Kingdom, but wasn't he like barely in the movie?
He's in the movie for like all 3 minutes.
So, but obviously,
it's like
that was their
it's the
advertising.
same, like,
but that was their way to.
yeah, that was our. Yeah, he's in the movie for. I would assume he was there on set for like maybe a day, maybe two, because both scenes that he's in, like one in the beginning and like one near the end, it's the same courtroom. He's almost. I think he's wearing like the same clothes. I don't know if it's the same thing, and they just showed like a flashback to it, like towards the end. But yeah, no, it could like this. This was just filmed in an hour. Like you're in the movie for unless they cut a lot of stuff that he was in.
But
But yeah, no, he's in it for barely anything.
I
at
thought
all.
it was going to be like that. I thought he was going to be. I thought Jeff Goldblum was their selling point, but no, he and Bill Pullman are very much a part of this movie, and I'm like, okay, like yeah,
Yeah, yeah. If Jeff Goldblum wasn't as involved in this movie, this movie probably would have flopped even harder than it already did.
Yeah,
and that's saying something.
It was just like, so kind of going back to what I was saying. Like the first one was a really fun premise, and this one is just like it's the same thing, but higher stakes,
Bigger.
Yeah, no, bigger. There's a bunch of people that I don't really care about. The only person that I do genuinely care about I'm like entertained by them because I know them, are all the people that were in the last one. So like Jeff Goldblum and his dad and Bill Pullman and
So I'm gonna have to disagree with you on Jeff Goldblum's dad in this movie.
Oh, he's useless.
He provided nothing to this movie whatsoever. He was pure filler for the movie, plain and simple.
Yeah, but he was still like somewhat entertaining, and he was funny in the last one. But I agree, he didn't really contribute.
He had a couple of laughs, but not enough to like warrant him like being a full-fledged character.
Oh,
and having
no,
as much screen time as they gave him. Him and like those random kids, like get the fuck out. I was rooting for the aliens whenever they were on screen. I will say
the scene at the end where what is his job now, Jeff Goldblum or David Levinson? What is he's director Levinson, or what was his job in the last movie? I forgot.
Like a TV repairman,
and
basically.
He's the one that gets the signal. Which, how is he the one that gets the signal and no one else figured this out? But what? Yeah.
Because he works with satellite TVs and he was like top of his class and he's like overqualified for his underpaid job that he has or something like that. And this one, he's like a UN representative that like is like the, I guess, like alien liaison because he's like the expert because I went to space. I'm familiar with the technology because it's 90s compatible or something. Thank God that this alien's tech computer is Linux compatible with my laptop.
And I was thinking about this though with Jeff Goldblum because he is a very I think he's a talented actor. I love watching him. He's really fun. He's really charismatic. Just like, again, this is just regular Jeff Goldblum, not even like on screen. Like he himself is a very entertaining, fun person. And so I was kind of thinking though, like, would you say him and Will Smith in the last movie and Bill Pullman are like the three main who is the main character of the first one?
Will Smith.
Okay.
Like Will Smith, it's basically three stories that just converge. It's Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum, and Bill Pullman.
Which, okay, fine, great. And this one, it seems like there's no main character. There's
it's
like
it's very loosely three. They're basically trying to catch lightning in a bottle for a second time that they did with the first Independence Day, and try to follow the same formula of three different stories that eventually converge, and those stories are David and like Jeff Goldblum's character and like the various like uh government like force at like Area 51 with like Dr.
yeah.
Oaken, played by Brent Spiner, who made a return from the first movie.
I forgot all about him, and I texted you, and I
Yeah,
was just like,
yeah,
"Who is this guy?" And you're like, "He's the." I
yeah.
thought he was. I'm like, "Is it the pilot guy? The like the weird like the dad that everybody thinks is like crazy?" And he's like, "No, I'm telling the truth about aliens." Like I,
No, no,
and then
no,
I'm
no,
like,
oh no, he's dead.
and he's
Yeah,
dead. So I was like, "Wait, is it this guy?" And then you're like, "No, it's the guy that got like mind
mind
controlled."
control during the alien autopsy.
Which did so when we first like the first scene of this movie, Bill Pullman wakes up from like a nightmare, and
Yeah,
they're trying to make him. I was so lost at first because I'm like the first like 20 minutes I was actually super confused. I'm like I feel like I
yeah.
barely understand what's going on, and
Well, yeah, and it was all well. Sorry, but like they were trying to do like the same thing that they were trying to do with the first movie, with the three intersecting stories
yes,
that like can converge at the end. They okay, so like the first story is Jeff Goldblum and like the government, like Area 51, doing their whole thing, trying to figure out how to stop the mothership. The second story is uh Will Smith's son and Liam Hemsworth and the various
yeah,
pilots fighting like the aliens like on the spaceship. And then the third story is Jeff Goldblum's dad on the worst road trip I've ever seen in my
that's
life.
considered the
And
third story. I would have thought Bill Pullman and his daughter were kind of the third one.
I feel like they converge really quickly with Jeff Goldblum's character, that it
It's
kind
all
of
one. Okay.
coincides. Yeah, I feel like it merges way too quickly before the third act for it to count it as its own
Yeah.
thing.
Okay.
Whereas like the road trip is kind of like a continuous thing throughout the whole movie. The fighting with like the pilots is its own thing, and Jeff Goldblum is like there like
And
from
actually,
the
yeah, even
beginning.
Bill Pullman, not Bill Pullman, sorry, Jeff Goldblum, and they basically they come across like a giant crater or hole in Africa, and they also okay, another spaceship is coming. They attack it, and Jeff Goldblum is like, no, no, we don't know what we're attacking, and then I love they like they push it back or whatever, and everyone's like, yeah, and I'm like, okay, great, the movie's over, and I genuinely like laughed at like when everyone's like, yeah, we're done, and then Liam
Yeah,
Hemsworth, who is the troublemaker. He's kind of rebellious and uh
yeah.
little
And
reckless. Uh,
I also kind of
yeah,
want to say this about Liam Hemsworth's character. Him and Will Smith's son, they could have just been the same
yeah.
character. They
Oh,
could have just wrote that as
yep.
one character. Liam Hemsworth didn't need to be in this movie at
No,
all. They could have just combined all the qualities into Will Smith's son, and there you go. That's a full
yeah,
fledged,
for
multi-dimensional
sure. And I
character.
thought that's what they were gonna do. Like, I agree. Liam
Yeah,
Hemsworth is like it's because this is 2016, so this is smack in the middle of like or towards. This is during the Hunger Games trilogy, so he is
yeah.
very
No,
much
like
very popular by this point. So, yeah,
I totally understand why he's in this movie. He is eye candy to
it's
get
like
butts in seats. I totally
it's
understand that, and
like
I
yeah,
for the most
it's
part
like
agree with
Shia
that.
LaBeouf in the fourth Indiana Jones, which you would think that being another Indiana Jones would be enough to get people to come. Maybe when they,
Yeah.
but yeah, but like
We'll
no,
get
like
to
in the
that
sense of
later.
like yeah, you don't necessarily need this young popular guy. If anything, these other characters, like I feel like Jeff Goldblum is. Would you say is there? Does he have? I'm trying to think because it seems like a lot of. I don't want to say a lot, but his most famous movies, Jeff Goldblum seems to be kind of the quirky, smart guy side character, like Jurassic Park, um, as well as Independence Day. Uh,
Well, I think that's also. I don't think that's him just being typecast. I think that's just him as a person. Like in his series on Disney Plus, it's just him kind of going around and experiencing a bunch of random stuff. It's like, oh, I'm gonna go see how this ice cream's made, and like all those mannerisms in his movies are just him toning it down. He is actually like a really
Yeah,
odd
yeah, yeah,
character
yeah,
in
yeah.
real life. He's a weird guy, so it's not just him playing a quirky character. He's basically just being typecast because that's just
But I
his
more
actual
mean,
personality.
like he's not the main character in Jurassic Park, and he's like kind of he's one of the main, I guess you could say, in Independence Day, but it's like, yeah, like you said, like three different stories going on. So I'm more just kind of again, I've only seen, when it comes to Jeff Goldblum, I really like Jeff Goldblum, but I have only seen the stuff that he is like well known for, as opposed to branching out. I'm sorry. So I'm more just kind of curious, is he,
Fair
other than The
enough.
Fly, is he, how often is he a leading man? Because I can't think of, again, I didn't like, or at least one that's
uh,
super well
well,
known
he's
the way
he's
these movies are. But then again, these are big blockbuster studio movies.
let's see. I'm actually going through his IMDb page right now. Oh, he was the main character in Jurassic
Okay,
World
yeah,
2.
okay, yes. Actually, yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
yes,
I
okay.
forgot about that.
But which, actually, you know what? We got to hold. We are, sorry, spoiler. We are talking Lost World later this month, so I'll hold off for that. But okay, yeah, fair enough. Um, but that's also, but that's different
Yeah,
because
it's
that
like
was an ensemble, and then the story just focused on him, as opposed to like he's just like, we've already met him. We're not like being introduced to him as like the
yeah.
leading character, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, to be fair, like his role was actually like significantly reduced with the first
Really?
Jurassic Park
Oh
movie
yeah, in the
because the in
book,
the
yeah.
well in the book well in the because based on the book, Dr. Ian Malcolm's character is way more involved in the events of the book, and there's actually like 8 other like doctors and like people being sent to the island to evaluate it, rather than just like the five
I really
people
want
that
to
we
read the
see in the
book because I've
movie.
heard there's some, yeah, there are some, there's a particular like interesting like point that his character makes about Jurassic Park and the dinosaurs, which, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Independence Day. But
Yeah. We're talking
overall,
about
it
those
seems just like this
aliens.
movie is copy and pasted from the first one, trying to, recreate stuff from the first one that worked in the last movie. But it's like, okay, yes, just because there was a group in the last movie, we kind of talked about it, the pilot guy whose family, he like, they're all kind of like, what, they live in a trailer and they kind of have to take care of their dad.
Yeah, I think that's Randy Quaid.
Oh yeah, 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 it is. But but they're, taking
Yeah.
care of him, and but they
Yep.
contribute. He ends up contributing and is the one that, like, like dies for the cause. Like, these kids, it was pointless.
Yeah.
I did think that scene though later when, so Jeff Goldblum's dad was on his boat when the ship landed, and he's now just on land in his boat and ends up joining this like group of kids, and they find this like stranded bus load of kids on the side of the road, and their car's out of gas, so they decide to take the bus. And later, when what was the premise? The aliens are trying to get to our core, of the
They're just
earth.
trying yeah, they're trying to they're trying to extract our molten earth core because that fuels their ships and upgrades their technology according to the alien sphere that they blew up in the beginning of this movie, because we thought it was an alien threat that just popped up right in front of the moon base in the very beginning, that just coincidentally established like a crazy badass space laser death ray. It's like, all right, they're not communicating with us. They seem super threatening because they just wiped into existence right in front of our moon base. We're going to kind of shoot that because, you know, we kind of have a bad experience when it comes to aliens invading
Yeah,
Earth's personal space. VoIP. And then the other aliens show up and it's like, well, we can't kill that. The thing's the size of a continent. The thing's the size of Russia. We need to get rid of this thing. We need to get out of here. it just wiped it out of existence, and then the mothership shows up, which I also just I hated the fact that in this movie
Yeah,
they kept mentioning stuff that happened in the first movie that we're just now hearing about for the first time. Because like when they're in Africa and David's there, um, oh, quick tangent to my tangent. What the hell was the point of that insurance adjuster guy that was just following David around the entire movie? That like
oh, the
Floyd,
glasses guy.
yeah, Floyd Rosenberg. I did not know his name until I looked up the IMDb. He was just comedic relief because he didn't do anything. I think he killed like one alien out of just pure stupid luck at like the very end of the movie. But aside from that, he was just like, "You need to sign this because I've been following you around." I honestly don't know what he was doing there. He was just there were so many wasted characters in this movie, and it annoyed me to no end because they provided absolutely nothing of value or merit to this movie. Um, but anyway, when they're in Africa, they're examining the one spaceship that landed, and apparently this African nation who pretty much just closed off their entire borders to the outside
Yeah,
world have been fighting a guerrilla war with the aliens, which sounds like a much better premise than the movie that we got today on a larger scale. Yeah, like yeah, a guerrilla war in Africa. That sounds
and that
awesome.
yeah, I that guy actually that guy was like actually like genuinely like I was kind of intrigued by him and interested by him, and we didn't really get that much out of him. Um,
Yeah, he was just like a badass like semi like African warlord, and it's like he knows like the aliens like personal weaknesses to their armor
yeah,
and like how to get around like their like firearms. Like they're weak from the back because it's the blind spot in their helmets. Like that's fucking awesome. So it's like oh yeah, they're weak to sharp objects in the back of their armor because that's the weak spot. They only protect from the front. Their weak spot is their back. They can't turn their back to the enemies. Like just can we just get this guy a movie? I
yeah.
would much rather watch him growing up in this like African like country being ravaged by aliens, and they have like alien skulls like decorating like the trees of his like villas. Like this is fucking badass.
That's a much better concept for sure. It's because
Yeah,
yeah, there's really no need. It's not even just they're trying to tie this back so hard to the first one by like their I guess is like a 20-year anniversary of the previous movie, and they're having a whole
yeah,
celebration, and that's when all the stuff goes down starts to go down, and it just didn't need it. If anything, I'm like, doesn't it seem I was like, is it even Independence Day? I think they briefly mentioned it is. I feel like they were writing the screenplay and then they're just like, oh wait, we didn't. Oh wait, did we just specify that this is all happening during the 4th of July? Okay, let's just have someone say it. Like it's briefly just thrown in there, and then at the very end, Bill Pullman says like, "This is for America, Happy Independence Day," or whatever his line was. Like it
yeah.
just, if anything, I was like, why does this have to happen on Independence Day again? Like, is there some reason like, and it like I thought when Jeff Goldblum and what's her name, Catherine, she's the one like the that's the
I don't know. Female Jeff Goldblum.
female
I
Jeff
don't
Goldblum,
know.
but
She did nothing other than agree with him, pretty
but
much.
they find like, was it like a distress call or something, or that's, I was just getting so confused because at first they're like, these are the same aliens. No, they're not. Yes, they are. And by the end, it sounded like it was. And I'm like, which is it? Are these the same aliens? Or is it completely different? Like, I thought it was different species for most of the movie. And then it sounded like they just kept changing their mind. Like, I genuinely still don't know.
No, like the the only thing that like the only confusion I had with like if is this the same one was when they were referring to the like alien orb that they shot in the beginning, because it's like when we first see that it's like it is noticeably
Yeah.
different than what we saw in the first one. It's like, oh, they're gonna deal with like another alien threat. Like that's a cool premise. Like, okay, it's not just the same stuff. No, it's the same stuff. It's just this guy, like floating orb is like, hey, I'm here to warn you guys, and also try to evacuate as much of you guys as possible so we can defend against them when they show up to like my planet, which is like properly defended specifically
Hmm.
for them to show up. It's like, okay, why didn't you say that before we shot you? You literally just kind of hovered there and didn't say anything.
Yeah, it just didn't. It was just this
Like you had ample time to respond.
this movie just did not need to happen. That is the biggest takeaway. It made no sense. And this is Universal, right? Is it? No, it's
No, this
no.
is 20th Century Fox. This is
Oh,
Fox.
right. Wait. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, this is Fox.
Okay, then the thing I was gonna say is irrelevant because it's not Universal. But
Okay.
anyway, um, I mean, I will say I went into this with such low expectations, and I saw how poorly, like how low its ratings are on IMDb, and I think I was just more worried about being bored. Which a lot of the reviews people were saying like, I did wow, you can have a big giant action movie and nothing happen, or that's super boring. And I wouldn't say I was necessarily bored. I was entertained for the most part. I think I was just, and I've seen way worse. Um, I think it's just it's trying to connect it so hard to the first one, um, and also
Yeah.
it just doesn't need to happen. But there were plenty of scenes that I was having like fun watching, or I like laughed at a joke. Like I think I started to talk about this part earlier when Jeff
Yeah.
Goldblum's dad is driving the bus and they're trying to drive to Area 51, and this is just like they got X amount of minutes until the alien penetrates the Earth's core, and so they're going through what their plan. And Jeff Goldblum, they see a school bus driving across the desert, and Jeff, I almost said Dennis, Jeff Goldblum is just like
Damn it, Dennis.
waving his arms, trying to get them to stop. And someone on the bus is like, a tall, gangly guy is waving at us. And the dad's like, tall, gangly guy, that's my David. And I thought the joke was funny, but it was just like, I would have just said, hey, I think some guy's waving at us. I wouldn't have specified that he was tall and gangly. Like, there was no need for that. The description was there just so they could, he could be like, oh, that's my David. And him and the dad in the last movie were kind of like, we're funny together. And this movie, they're barely together until like the last little bit. But I will say, the scene where
Yeah.
Jeff Goldblum's driving the bus and the aliens like chasing him, it was so ridiculous, but it was kind of
It,
fun. And I was thinking, if this was a better movie, this would be like a great like Universal Studios ride or something. Like that concept of you're in a school bus and just driving racing away from an alien.
yeah, but but honestly, when that scene showed up, I before we even get to that, I just want to say like, yeah, I do agree. This movie is trying way too hard to connect with the previous movie, which you shouldn't be so heavily reliant and use like a previous movie as a crutch, because then it just hinders
Mm-hmm.
the performance and the impact that a sequel will have. Is if all you're talking about is the first movie. If all you're talking about is the first movie, then I'm just going to watch the first movie because that's already something that you won't shut up
Yeah.
about. If you're just going to keep talking about something, I'm just going to watch that instead. But going into that scene of like the queen alien chasing the bus, um at that moment in the movie, she's chasing like the signal for the alien sphere, which I think at that point is just out in the open. She knows exactly where it is. So why does she have such a hate boner for the bus and the various planes? Like, there's no like the bus poses no threat to her. The planes pose barely any threat to her because she has like shield around her, which I mean it eventually goes away, but It's like, there's no point, and she controls like her entire like fleet of drones to like come and protect her. So it's like, why?
Yeah,
This movie just makes so many stupid mistakes and just poses no rational
no.
explanation whatsoever, and it pisses me off to no end.
I've read a lot of scripts for like, you know, internships and stuff like that, and I've noticed I've read, and sometimes I will, you know, where I'm reading a script where I'm just like, the something about this dialogue comes off really awkward to me, or I can this doesn't like I cannot see this sounding good in real life. And recently I was a script supervisor, I was on set, and the script had some awkward dialogue, but while I was there, I realized there was this one scene in particular where I didn't love the dialogue when I read it, but when I was hearing it, I'm like, oh, this actually sounds way better because the actors are really talented. And in this movie, there are a lot of talented actors in this movie, and I do think Liam Hemsworth is a pretty talented actor, but in this movie he is definitely eye
Yeah,
candy.
no,
But there was a particular scene where I could just see it. I could just see the dialogue on the page, and I could just see myself being like, it came off. It was the scene where like uh the like all of the pilots just arrived on the base on the moon, which we got to talk about in just a second. But like, and like
yeah.
Liam Hemsworth is like fixing something, and his friends talking to him, and just the way they're talking.
Oh yeah, his comedic relief sidekick, which who does nothing other than be comedic
Yeah,
relief
and
sidekick.
just something with the dialogue, it just came off like to me as just like, this is very much on paper. It does not sound like, not saying people can't speak this way or that people don't speak this way. It just sounded like shitty script. And I know that sounds really weird, but I know it's like I could just see it on the page. Like I've seen this type of dialogue on page, and if the acting was, maybe I want to say maybe it's the actor's fault, but I will say the guy that plays Dylan, who's Will Smith's son, I had a lot of issues with his acting. Was weird to me.
It fluctuated
Particularly,
with
we
me
find
a little
out.
bit.
So, I guess him and Liam Hemsworth. So Liam Hemsworth is engaged to. So Bill Pullman was the president. His daughter. He's engaged to President Whitmore's
President
daughter.
Whitmore's daughter.
And him and Will Smith's son and her were all pilots. And I guess he says, and she says, so I saw, before he goes up into space, she's like, I saw, because she works for the president now. She's like, I saw Dylan today, and he's like, I don't know, says something, and she's like, well, you did try to you almost got him killed, remember? And that pissed me the fuck off, because I can't, that is the shittiest explanation. When you have exposition, when you try to say remember, it's like, yeah, no duh, he remembers. We as the audience don't know any of this. You're just saying this for our benefit, and it pisses me off because it's like, you're not giving us a chance to like, they didn't say what happened, just the whole remember. It's like, yeah, he remembers. We know that he knows this. We just don't do it for our benefit.
Like nothing that they say comes across natural.
No, and then this is
it's very forced.
When we meet Dylan, when Dylan and Liam Hemsworth show up. Dylan is Will Smith's son. He punches him in the face, and he's like, I've been waiting a long time to do that. And then we find out later they were just training, and Liam, who's Will? I can't, Will Smith.
Who's Will?
Liam Hemsworth's character. They were just training, and he was just being reckless and almost got Will Smith's son.
He wing dinged him,
and he almost died. And this is just training. And I think the reason about the punch pissed me off so much was something about it. Just, it didn't feel it. Yeah, it felt so forced. I feel like if you're in a situation like that where someone almost tried to kill you, like it just, that reaction just seems, it didn't seem like the anger, sure, but it's like, did you not have it out after? Did you not have a conversation after? Have you not seen each other? Like, you crash land and that was it? You didn't see him again? Like, I just, didn't buy that at all. It's like, no, they would have already had it out. Maybe they hate each other, but they would have already have like had dealt.
Yeah, they would have at least had like a falling out
Yeah,
or
which
something,
they
and it's like this is the first time they've seen each other in like X amount of
and we
months or
we
something.
see the scene, we listen to like the audio of when he crashed, and he was just like, I've been hit, I'm going down, ah. And then when the ship's landing, like the alien ship, and he sees Vivica Fox as a doctor, she's trying to get this woman who just gave birth out of the hospital with her baby, and the plane just stops, she gets the baby and the mom on, and she falls, and then she falls and dies, and he's just like, no, ah. And it was just like, you're watching your mom fall to her death, just scream. It was very much reading his line.
Real men show emotions.
But it wasn't even she didn't show emotion, it was just to me that is not the proper response. It's like, yes, you would be upset and you might scream, but the scream felt very much like a not a like, oh my god, my mom. Like it didn't seem sad or anything. He was just like, mom, just reading a script.
It's like, oh man, Ma, that sucks.
Kind of glossed over this, but so I guess because they mentioned this all in the expositional speech that the president is reading, because she's going to give it at the celebration.
Yes.
They now kind of have like the whole Earth is like revamped, because now they have alien technology and, prepared for a fight against an alien attack and blah blah blah.
Yeah. Also, I'm gonna call full bullshit on that, because they said it's like, oh yeah, never before in our 20 years, all of our conflicts seem so petty. It's like, now, not every conflict in human history is based off of petty reason, and you're telling me that in the 20 years since the aliens showed up, we have complete and total unification of humanity in the entire world, every single country. Okay, I'm gonna call bullshit.
But like, I was like, wait, what year is this? Is this supposed? I thought this was set more into the future. No, it's supposed to be set 2016. This is just like a kind of an alternate, like, because the events of the last movie, this is the world now, and
yeah, and they refer to the events of the first movie, the War of '96,
and there, I guess, now is a station on the moon, and that's where Liam Hemsworth is, and it just, while they were up there,
he was banished to the moon because that's his punishment. He was banished to the moon.
Because of his training issue. And I was also just kind of like, if he's this reckless and if he does this kind of shit, why is the president's daughter with him? Other than, okay, he is hot guy. I thought she was going to get together with Will Smith's son. And then when I saw Liam Hemsworth,
that would have made more sense.
It would have made way more sense. And when I saw that,
they had history in the first movie.
I thought that was I agree. I think Liam Hemsworth should not have been in this movie. It should have been just the focus was Will Smith's son. It would have been more emotional, made more sense why it's tied to the last movie. Liam Hemsworth's story is that his parents died in '96.
Yeah,
and okay.
And the last thing I said to my parents was, "I hate them." Cool, edgy.
Teenager.
Oh, you're such a badass.
But no, it was more like,
go to Hot Topic. Get out of here.
It was more of like, oh, they think that's the last thing. It's like, okay, well, I guess you were a teenager, like whatever. But like really, I mean, I don't know. I haven't been in that situation. I don't know what that's like. But it almost kind of felt like there were parts of this movie that felt like Doom. Like, we're in space and there's like an alien loose in the facility, kind of like esque vibes, which I
can kind of see
I didn't want to go back to
that
Doom.
you're picking. Yeah. You didn't want to reference Doom, but actually, Doom made its presence known. I will say,
Doom, the first Doom, made a little more sense than this movie. Doom Annihilation was one of the worst things I've ever seen. But
wow, that's
the second one. But
you sweet summer child. No, there's far worse out there.
But also, actually, let's just kind of jump to the end, because they kill. So we find out it's like the same thing. There was not same thing. They realized in the last one that when they blew up the ship, there probably was a queen inside and they probably killed her, and that's why they were able to win. So this time they are like putting all their focus, like, we gotta kill the queen, they gotta kill the queen. And, they kill the queen, and the sphere, the digital sphere, who kind of says like her civilization all went digital like a millennia
millennia.
ago.
Yeah, they basically said that. It basically said that as like, I'm the sole survivor of my species. My planet is fully protected. My technology is like, well, wait, if you're the sole survivor of your entire species, then your technology would have gone up against these invaders beforehand, and and then you would have lost since you're the only survivor. Why are you saying your technology is superior in comparison
That
to
is a
what,
good
us?
point. That's a really good point.
If you're comparing it to us, then maybe, but a lot of our technology is based off of the invaders' technology. So wouldn't that put us in a tier above you?
But
Wouldn't Shouldn't
yeah.
you be taking technology tips from us since we're the only ones who beat them?
But at the end, were they gearing it up for another movie?
Yes. Oh, they sequel baited hard
So
with
hard.
that
It
sphere.
just ended with like interstellar travel. When and they're like, "Oh, we're going to take the fight to them." They're like, when do we when do we start?" And then like the movie ends and I'm just like, "Good god, don't."
Yeah.
But that also, so you were talking about the sphere earlier, why like the alien was chasing the, so they used the coordinates, or the like uh what was it, like she was giving off like
She okay. So yeah,
radi
she was giving off like a very specific like radiation signature. So their plan
they
was they were
copied
going
it.
to, yeah, they copied it and they were going to bring out into the salt flats in like the middle of like like way outside the base, and have it like suck up a bunch of like cold fusion bombs and then blow it up, and then use the shield generators for the base to like make sure that the explosion can just blow up the entire state, because they were going to use a lot of bombs because it's a big ship. It's like, that makes sense. And then they were going to hide the real sphere in an isolation chamber that they use for like all the alien prisoners that they've had since 96.
I forgot
Now,
all
problem with that
about that.
plan so the problem with that plan is they can track this sphere from like way out into like the depths of space, like way past the moon, like past Jupiter, and like well within our solar system, to like a pinpoint accuracy spot on our planet. They're on our planet, and so is the sphere. How good is your isolation chambers? Because all the aliens there were able to have like a psychic connection to the alien when it approached our solar system. They immediately started thrashing about and basically were like, "Ah, oh, she's coming," and playing the whole pronoun game about it. And so yeah, I don't think your isolation chambers are going to do shit when they're that close.
But really, like, I think what I thought was like weird was they, so the what's the name, is Dr. what?
Doc, Dr. Oaken,
Dr. Oaken. He like
Brent Spiner.
Brent Spiner, he's so like excited obviously by this like, you know, like artificial intelligence, and that he like wants to like know so much about it that while it's in the sphere, he like touches it just so he can like, you know, see what it knows. And I thought, oh, him activating it, it's gonna set off a signal and that alien's gonna go after that. And didn't seem like that was, I mean, she knew, just figured out that the other one was a fake, and obviously this is the real one. But that didn't seem to have any issues. Like that didn't, I'm like, I thought it was gonna go somewhere, and it did not. And actually,
It
so
Yeah.
even when Bill Pullman sacrifices himself, um, to, he's gonna, they're gonna use the signal, put a bunch of bombs in. He's gonna, obviously, it's gonna, kill himself to destroy the alien. And
Yeah, not after he gives another rousing speech like he did in the
oh my
first
god, the
movie.
speech was so, it felt, I think he actually, did he set a microphone down during that scene so everyone would
No,
hear, or was that his I don't know why he had a cane. It's like, oh, he's old.
because he's
He's 60.
old.
He was like 63. Like
He's so
they
old.
were trying
I
to
don't
make it
know.
up like oh, he's like really old and this messed him up, and well, also the
Like
very
I think they were also trying to like play with the fact because he like had like a psychic connection with like the one
yeah,
alien in the
right,
first movie, and they were really playing up that angle too. So that kind of like made him that made him like deteriorate a little bit more. But I swear to God, his speech could not have been a more by the numbers inspirational action movie speech.
yeah,
It just hit all the check marks. It's like, oh, we're not doing this for ourselves. We're doing this for the next generation. Look at what we've accomplished when we work together. Today is our
yeah,
independence. Like he was just hitting like all of, like the check marks you needed. There was nothing behind it. Just dead
yeah.
behind the
The
eyes saying this. It was just so. It was such a pandering speech that it wasn't even fun to listen
Yeah,
to
the
or make
last
fun
one
of.
was actually inspiring and it was fun. And then there was that incredibly really into it. The what did you sent it? You sent me when we were actually recording Star Wars. You sent that clip to me and Ben of the really like overacting patriotic.
Oh, there, there's one extra at the end of that speech who just so gives everything into like the 2 seconds he has on this screen. It's like, I'm gonna make my mom, my acting coach, proud. Just salutes
What
like
did you call it? Was it the
crazy for
overselling of
this
patriot? Is that
speech.
the term, or am I thinking of something else? Yeah.
The most overacting
But yeah,
patriot.
the speech felt came off very okay. We need inspiring speech. It just this, and then but also Bill Pullman. They obviously need someone to make the ultimate sacrifice, and because so she thinks Liam Hemsworth is dead. President Whitmore's daughter, like I'm assuming that was the implication. Like she assumes he's dead. She
Oh
volunteers, and
yeah,
then
that yeah, no,
yeah,
go ahead.
okay.
I have something
Which
to say
like there's a
afterwards.
whole plan and it fails and they assume that they're dead, but they don't know for sure. And then she's like volunteers, and then Bill Pullman is like, comes out no, and he's in his uniform and he's shaved, his face is clean shaven. And I gotta say, I was like, Bill Pullman, you're like 63, you look really good, like good for you. Like, and yeah, he looked great.
No,
I was
honestly,
like
he
really
does.
impressed. It was and she even says to his like security guard or his bodyguard guy, she's like, "Do not let him get on." It's like I can't again. I have not been in this situation. I obviously would not want my dad to make that kind of sacrifice, but like,
I also have not been president, so I don't know what the chain of command is. For daughter to Secret Service agent.
I mean, so then we're in this really obviously very high stakes situation. If he doesn't go on it, oh, I'm assuming that it was okay. If he doesn't do it, she'll do it, was just the implication. But like, I don't know. It just was like, who's gonna do it? Is it gonna be you? Like,
Yeah.
and someone's gonna do it, and he wants to. He wants to make this last sacrifice. So I don't know. It just, well, I don't know. It was just very like this movie sucked. Like it was just really bad. I don't know how many times I can say that.
it yeah. Um. So yeah, going back to my point. So she thinks that uh Hemsworth is dead, along with like Will Smith's son and like the rest, like Legacy Squadron. Again, that's a really stupid
Yeah,
name. Um. So when the alien mothership first shows up, it's like, okay, we need to attack. So they do the same thing that they did in the first movie, which was attack in mass and try to destroy and cripple like a major part of the ship. They send out drones to knock out their shield generators. Like, okay, we got past that hurdle, and then wouldn't you know it, a ship the size of Antarctica would have a shitload of defenses and completely overwhelms them. And Liam Hemsworth's like, "Hey, their docking things is open. Let's fly in there. We'll fly into the ship and we'll kind of get out of this firefight." So him, Will Smith's son, and like a bunch of other pilots fly into the ship, and uh, it's like, "Oh no, it's a trap." It's like, what's a trap? There's no point to the trap. Did the aliens need like live humans for something, because she sets off like an EMP that just destroys their ship and knocks out like pretty much like every satellite like around the planet. So they crash land in like this actually like really cool looking like ecosystem inside this giant like almost planet size spaceship. And now what? They're just kind of stuck there, and they're slowly kind of getting hunted. That would have been a really cool premise for a movie too.
This movie has so many like
This movie is just constant wasted opportunity.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
the thing that like I thought was really weird about that was, what was the point of that trap? Now you just have like a dozen or so humans just kind of loose on your ship with no real plan
Oh
afterwards.
yeah.
That that
His
that trap doesn't serve any purpose. It's like you attacked, she counterattacked. You guys weren't prepared. That's not a trap. That's she's that's not a trap. So I don't understand why they say it's a trap. It's like, no, that was just a defense,
and
and you
yeah.
guys were idiots for falling for it.
And then
It's not a trap.
his plan, their attempt to get out, his distraction is flipping off the aliens and peeing in front of them.
Yep.
Hit Liam Hemsworth. And
Yeah.
and I will say before like just before he goes up into the ship, because yeah, they realize like she knows that they're gonna, I even thought that they basically see the ship, recognize, okay, all these dots are probably life forms, and so what's this giant one? That's the queen. I even thought like, how do we know that's actually her, or that it's I even guessed like, is it gonna be a trap? And it was. And Liam Hemsworth and the president's daughter, they were like, they're engaged, so she says something like, I really like that house on Harrison Street, and he's like, yeah, if it's still there. And I will say at this moment, I'm like, guys, this, I kind of thought, is he gonna die? And part of me assumes no, because he's Liam Hemsworth. If he's gonna die, it's gonna be the very, very end. But typically, rule of thumb, don't, when characters make plans, good, I don't care, good or bad, I've seen it happen in like good movies and shows, TV shows, and bad ones. When characters make plans like that right before like a chaotic event, it almost always ends with someone dying. And then fake death, but also I was like, no, it's Liam Hemsworth, he's probably not going to die, because a bunch of girls would get up and leave the theater. Maybe, I don't know, 2016 was crazy year. Actually, you know what, it was. Anyway,
it's been crazy for the past
for
few
sure
years,
for sure honest. It like really kind of, yeah, but anyway, anyway,
so
yeah,
the final question of the night, Sam, do you think this movie could happen in real life? Yeah, same.
No, just
all right, join us next week, folks, while we talk about a slightly better
what
movie.
Do you
no. And if it did, I'd root for the aliens.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, what was even the aliens' plans in the last movie? I don't remember the first one that well, obviously. It's been like a year.
That was the thing, is that the aliens' motive wasn't fully established, other than killing all the humans to do something else. And it was kind of just, it was just like, oh, what do you want from us? Die. It's like, okay, that's super creepy.
But something else.
It's
yeah,
like, I don't want to.
I don't really feel like it right now. Okay, yeah, because like their plan, well, we don't know again. So yeah, we don't know their motives in the last one, but we know their plan was ridiculous, but it was like kind of interesting. Of like, they're stationed over these various spots around the globe, and then just destroy that area, because they're trying to like just, that's like the first attack. And this,
yeah, and also they kind of left like an inkling of like hope, because like, oh, we can totally take these things down. They're not that big. I mean, they're like, yeah, these ships are huge.
Wasn't it
but
like those ones
we can
were
take
like
them down.
a mile long, and this one was
they were like a mile long.
And that's like 3,000 miles. That's like about this. That's like about roughly like a little smaller than like the U.S. Like across, like you
Yeah.
know,
The thing is so big, it had its own gravitational pull and just destroyed like a third of the planet.
and it just it that whole sequence. So when it was landing, it was, I will say, it was interesting. There were some visuals that were really interesting. Like I think was it Japan was being like decimated, and people all started like, was it the gravity? Like
Oh no
what
no no
happened?
no! Since this was since they were pandering to China,
Oh, it
that
was
was China.
China. Okay,
Yeah, they were a lot of the movies that have been coming out in like the past few years that have like major like major studios are like pandering to China
bigger box
because
office. Yeah.
of like bigger box office returns in an international market, and they have the biggest population, so we got to pander to them.
Okay. I mean, okay. I don't. I think I assumed it
I
was
mean,
Japan because it, I don't know, the way it landed, I was trying to figure out where exactly is it landing. Is it landing like, it was partly in the ocean, it was partly on land. I thought it was kind of just across the Pacific, so I thought it was Japan, but I guess not. But like that scene was
yeah,
actually visually, I think I was even like, oh holy shit, like it was like there are all these cars just trying to get out, and then they're all just suddenly thrown up. Like there were moments that were interesting, and I definitely wasn't bored. um it was just, this is again, it's about a 2 hour movie, and it just didn't need to happen. I think Jeff Goldblum was the only person that I was, and maybe Bill Pullman were, and I guess actually the Doctor was fun too. I guess the people from the first one were fun to watch, and everyone else I'm like, I don't particularly care.
yeah. So
If you're thinking about watching this on
this is
on July, 4th of July, maybe don't. Like I don't remember.
just
I think I said last year I didn't think that the first one was that great, and I actually feel really stupid because when we did Godzilla, I was annoyed because you had sent me the I think you were sending me like the nostalgia critic Godzilla before we did it, and he was crapping on Independence Day, which I hadn't seen, but I was like, I thought it was a way better
oh yeah.
movie because everyone loved it so much. And then when I watched it, I'm like, what was wrong with me? Why was I defending this movie? A, I hadn't even seen, and B, it wasn't that. I mean, it's fun. It was a fun movie, but it had a lot of problems. This was just makes the first one look like the best. It makes it look so much better. Because this one was so bad.
Yeah, it was pandering to an audience for a movie that came out 20 years ago and really provided nothing of merit to have this movie stand on its own legs other than just, hey, remember what we did in this movie 20 years ago? Yeah, I'd much rather be watching that. The end. That's the
Yeah, I
movie.
think yeah, at the very beginning, there were a couple of moments from like, oh great, when they first, when Bill Pullman, so Bill Pullman blew up the ship, and then the Queen comes out, and then his daughter, because she's now flying again, she breaks her shield because she's got her own personal like force field shield kind of thing, and then Liam
Yeah.
Hemsworth and them break, like, you know, kill her and kill the Queen, and like when the ship blows up and they're like, Jeff Goldblum, like, do you have confirmation? And at first I'm like, there's 20 minutes left. Is this the actual? I'm like, this can't be the end. But also, I could believe it's the end because this movie's not very good, and the next 20 minutes is just gonna be of like, I don't know, epilogue. Like, but then I will say, I'm like, okay, thank God it wasn't, because that would have been such a dumb ending. Because it would have, I'm like, oh wow, that was easy. Um, and also, actually, this brings
Yeah.
a question that I had. So, are the aliens all? They're all in these like. Are they? It's their skin, or is it like a protective suit or armor? Like the queen
Uh
dies and she comes out of her skin, and like,
yeah, so they basically they like have it so they basically have like a separate like body. They have like a body in like their heads that it like does like their primary like I don't even know how to explain it because I honestly don't care anymore. I really don't care anymore. I thought that they were cool, but this movie drains the fun out of you. It really does. I really don't have anything left in the tank at this point after this movie and talking
It
about it
just
for
made me
this
want to
long.
watch Jurassic Park
This is just
with a much
this made me want to watch a
yeah
better Alien movie. This made me just want to watch
yeah
Aliens.
or Transform. It made you
It's just
want to watch Transformers. It was so bad.
it made me want to watch Age of Extinction. It was
Which
that
one's?
bad.
Oh, that's like the is that the which one is that? I know it's Transformers, but is that
4 or 5,
is
I
that
don't
Mark?
even
That's Mark
remember
Wahlberg,
anymore.
right? Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
But actually, even
All
like
right.
it kind of reminded me a little bit of like Michael Bay. Very much is like my dad and I like a year ago watched Six Underground, and we were laughing because it was very much pandered for men, and there were a lot of like sex scenes and like just or like random like time like I think there was probably nudity in it or just like action sequence. Like Michael Bay just very much knows his audience is just catering to that, and this is kind of feels like he, kind of the same thing ish, but it's like it's trying to be more family friendly, which is why we have those groups of kids or like people are trying to avenge their parents. It's like trying to be less for just teens and more for like a family, but it's like I mean, I don't know. It still could be a way better better movie.
This movie, it just let's just in a quick recap, this
Sucked.
movie panders to an audience that doesn't exist anymore
Yeah.
by upping the stakes to a ludicrous degree, that just borders on a parody at this point by having a continent-sized spaceship and adds so many unnecessary characters that if you could combine all of them into one character and it still wouldn't have been a fully fleshed out character. It has so many wasted plot lines and threads that could have been full movies in their own right that would have been immensely better than this raging dumpster fire of a movie. So I give this movie 9 out of 10 stars. Gets my full recommendation. Go watch it right now. In the meantime, I'm Kevin Tracy. You can listen to us on Spotify, Twitter, all the podcast sites. Take it away, Sam.
Yeah. All those things. Yeah, I'd give this movie uh it's I'm trying to hang on, I'm trying to make it tied to the movie. I give it 0 giant spaceships out of 5 giant spaceships. It was terrible. I mean, I don't know.
It's so bad we can't even joke right now. This movie just destroyed our will to carry on right now.
No, I think the movie that really truly destroyed me was Doom Annihilation. And actually recently I know we're not unofficially doing recommendations. Recently my friends and I watched The Astrologer. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's this like really bad movie from the 70s that kind of suddenly it got released like on the internet recently, and that movie was
Oh.
100% without a doubt the worst thing I have ever seen. Not even just like how I used to have this is the worst movie I've ever seen. That's like a regular, studio movie, or the worst thing I've ever seen. That's like just a bad movie. This is 100. That was 100% the worst thing I've ever seen. So this movie, in Resurgence, just it's not even the worst thing I've seen. It just did not need to happen. That is the bottom line. This movie did not need to happen. But in a world of like, let's make a bunch of reboots, they felt that this was an appropriate one. And it was not.
Yeah. Which really sucks because it really did have potential.
Oh yeah,
it really did, and that's the tragedy for this movie.
That always pisses me off. The movie that could have been
that yeah, just like the the dark universe.
Oh God. Okay. Oh my God.
And they shit the bed.
I cannot
hard
wait. I
with
cannot
the
wait
Mummy.
until we talk about that Mummy.
I am chomping
I
at the
cannot.
bit to talk about the Mummy.
I mean, I.
Screw it, we're talking about it now. Buckle in, folks. We're talking about 2 movies.
And on that note, I'm Samantha Tomlinson.
I'm Kevin Tracy. You've been listening to Movie Reel. Bye-bye, folks, and don't watch this movie, so hope you God.
Just don't. Or just watch, I'm sure on YouTube there's like all Jeff Goldblum scenes. Just watch that part. Just watch those.
just watch literally anything else. Alright. Bye, folks.